Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. My name is Jason Weiss, and you are on the Ask Jason Weiss show. Although I am an attorney, a coach, a consultant, all of that in a bag of chips, nothing said today is legal advice, especially because you have two attorneys here, and nothing that either one of us say is legal advice. This is for purely entertainment and educational purposes only. So I can't wait to just jump right into this one, right? Everybody says that law school is so serious and law school is, you got to be it. And every lawyer has no humor and has nothing and is just, a dry stick in the mud. Well, I brought the most compelling reason to think that's BS right here on the show. I work with Sean Carter at least 2 nights a week for the past almost 2 years, where we do a show together called Celebrity Court, which you can find on YouTube, but I'm not plugging it too much, Mr. Reynolds, but just enough. You can find it on YouTube. And it's Mondays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. But Sean is our resident humorist at law. And Sean has taken a slightly different path with his legal career, and we're going to get into that. So first and foremost, Sean is here. We're going to keep it quasi clean. We don't talk politics, and we try not to get bleeped out by YouTube. So, speaking of that, we have some fun. And as you can see, Sean doesn't laugh ever. I made him laugh, so I'm excited. So, Sean, welcome. Tell our audience just a little bit about how you got here today. Take us down like your legal path that, you went to Harvard Law School, right?
You mispronounced that. That's Harvard.
Harvard.
It's like LSU. It's like Ohio State. It's the Harvard Law School.
Okay. So he went to the Harvard Law School, where he studied on the bricks, and he would throw water balloons off the roof, and he would drive the car. So Mr. Carter, he went to Harvard Law School, and once he graduated from Harvard Law School, towards the top of his class, if not the top of his class, what happened from that point forward to get you here today?
I'll give you the origin story. So I graduate, I go work at a big law firm in Boston, where we did leverage buyouts, right? I'm doing all the corporate stuff, which is how I got a beautiful woman to marry me. And it looked like we were going to do all the things. And about my mid-30s, so I'm associate in a big firm. Then I go in-house, and I'm executive vice president of a company that's publicly traded. I've got stock options and all that. And about 35 or so, I decide none of that is good for me. I would like to become a comedian. And so, and of course, my mother is so proud and so happy. She's mortgaged her house twice to send me to school so I can become a comedian. And so I start moonlighting at night, etc. And I figure out, I think I can do this. So I quit my good paying job, cash out my stock options, which turned out to be worth a lot of money after I cashed. And when I got rid of them, they were worth a lot more money than when I sold them, right? And I'm out in the streets, doing my thing, 25, bucks a night, making my way. I used to, open for Kevin Hart, right? But before either one of us was anything. And then all of a sudden, one day a friend says to me, "Hey, we have these bar events, and you should actually do something for us because that'd be really funny." And I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that. I didn't leave the law to do this. And I have principles." He said, "Well, we have a budget." And I said, "What's your budget?" And it was nothing. I think my first time I ever spoke was $500, but it was way more than I was making at the time, my principles. And so I said, "Okay, I'm gonna do this one time." That was like 3,000 times ago. But what happened was I found out that lawyers have all of these conferences all the time. All right. You know this because we have continuing education requirements like every profession. And they're very boring, like most professions. And so someone said, "Hey, if you can make this interesting, we will give you money." And so I started running around the country, pretty much for the last 20 years, speaking at bar events, law firms, that type of thing. And who knew that you could make a living like this? I didn't. And so that's what I've been doing. I happened to run into one of the other attorneys on the show years ago, maybe almost same time, almost 20 years ago. And when we started doing Celebrity Court of Public Opinion, she said, "Oh, you know what? I think you'd be good for this show." And that's when we met. And I think that you and I came on about the same time, right?
So November, I think for me, will be 3 years, believe it or not.
Oh, maybe you were before me then.
No, you were definitely before me. So
yeah, so it's going to be 2 years November.
Okay.
Maybe 3. But anyway, but the point is that I was like on like a week before. We come on almost at the same time. So we've done what, 100, 200, 150 shows or so. We've probably done 145 together.
And they're a lot of fun. They're very entertaining, and you will probably leave the show dumber than you started. Because we have some good time. I mean, what we do is we talk about, what's going on in the world and celebrity gossip. And, we talk about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, it seems like every single week. And we talk about the Real Housewives of wherever. I don't think we're doing a Real Housewives show tonight.
Yeah, we are. We got a real. We always have to have a Real Housewife. I think our judge knows half these people personally. I gotta guess because we're gonna have a Real Housewife today, so that'll be fun. Our big story today is Kanye, though.
Yep. So there's your teaser. We're going to be talking about Kanye tonight, but hey, we got you for 32 more minutes. So we're not going to be talking about that tonight. We're going to be talking about now. So Sean is a great example of how you can go ahead and take your law degree and say, oh, snap, I got out of law school with $100,000 in debt. I don't like what I'm doing. What do I do next? Because so many lawyers come out of law school, they're hyped, right? They think they're going to see what they saw on My Cousin Vinny and what they see on Law and Order and all these other shows. It's going to be like, I'm in the courtroom and I'm arguing and these aha moments, and those don't happen. Most of our days are filing papers, reading the opposing side, not preparing for trial, getting ready for an argument, and settling the argument right before it happens. You get hyped up, ready to go. And that's what this is all about. So Sean found out what he loved doing, which was entertaining and speaking and teaching, because there's a teaching aspect to it. And he's doing that. Now, I'm assuming prior to 2020, you did a ton of in-person seminars. Have you gone back to the in-person, or are you really focused still on virtual?
Yeah, I wish I could get back to the in-person. It's a lot easier to tell jokes in front of people, right, than in front of a camera. And I'm happy I have you, all right, because normally I'm just speaking to me, all right, and hoping people laugh. And remember, comedy is about timing. So I'm sitting there pausing for laughter that I don't know is coming or not. Right, I'm like hoping it's because and I did one yesterday that apparently wasn't as funny as I thought it was, and someone thought I was having a stroke. They put in an evaluation. They were like, this speaker, this was a good program. We learned a lot, but the speaker seemed to be unprepared and had to take frequent pauses. I'm like, yeah, I was pausing for you to laugh, fool.
So maybe what we should do is you should go get yourself a sidekick, right? The sidekick could be the one that's laughing and doing
that is actually not a bad idea. That's better than the idea I've had, because recently over the past couple of years, forget this. No one, I'm not there. No one's here with me. I might as well AI all my stuff. Create an avatar. Right, 11 Labs can give me a voice that sounds like mine, and I would just go ahead and pre-record all this stuff and just press the button. But maybe a laugh person might be easier, maybe cheaper actually.
So all of you aspiring lawyers, current law school students, college students, if you want to get involved in the law early, and you want to make absolutely no money, but have a good time entertaining other lawyers, reach out to Sean Carter, Humorist at Law, because you could guest star with him on some of his CLEs and his podcasts. And that'll look great for resume, and it'll really teach you the law. And look, as somebody, so the state of Florida requires us to do CLEs, continuing legal education. We have to do it.
Well, let me break in there, because we call it CLE. It's not. It's actually CLA, continuing legal attendance. All right. As long as you are alive at the end of it, All right, you get the credit. There's no test at the end. And so unless you're in Florida or here in Arizona, you don't always end, my audience doesn't always end up alive at the end because the average age of people in Florida and Arizona is deceased. So I'm going to lose 20 or 30% of my audience just from natural causes in the course of a presentation. But other than that, though, it's not hard to do, right? And so you're right. But go ahead. I interrupt you.
So Florida actually started a mandatory CLE because you can take any CLEs you want. So you pass the bar and you have to take a CLE. It's like intro to being a lawyer, something like that.
Right.
And then like within your first 3 years, you need to take certain courses that you must take. But then after you get your minimum requirements done, you could take whatever you want. Most of us try to take things that are of interest. So like I've taken on website compliance. I've taken on TCPA compliance. I've taken on advertising, marketing, trust account, like all of the things. But then they make you take certain things. They make you take an ethics, a professional responsibility. And you're sitting there and you're looking at it and you're like, I don't want to do this, but I'm being forced to. But when you go and you see one of these CLEs with Sean, you're entertained, you're enjoying it, and believe it or not, you're learning more because once your brain is engaged and wants to be there, you're going to absorb that knowledge. And that's always been my critique of some of these. Great information, but the delivery was terrible. Great information, but it was boring as crap. So this is what
imagine how bored you used to be when you had to go, because before the pandemic, you had actually most states go into a room.
Yep.
Right. And you would go there with other lawyers and you sit there with some dirty dishwater coffee and you would, just sort of, it was like everybody's, it was like for a layperson being called to jury duty.
Yep.
Right. Where you say, oh, shoot, I got the CLE summons, and you'd have to go and sit there. And now the good and bad thing now is you don't have to leave your office, right? There's like this, there's Zooms, and all day long you can be on CLE. The bad thing is that I, as a presenter, am competing not against the work you brought with you, all right, and all the other stuff, but the entire internet. Because once you get on the internet, right, it's so easy to flip to another window, right, to move to something else. The next thing you know, you're reading emails, you're doing whatever, you're playing, Farmville. And so for me, it's a real challenge to really keep people's attention, because I am competing with the greatest distraction device ever, the entire internet.
and most of the time, like I know I get them on demand, right? So you'll record live. Let's say like we're recording this show live right now when we're airing live, but then I can go ahead and for $150, I can buy the recording, and then I can download it and I can let it stream while I'm sleeping during the night. And I wake up first thing in the morning and I'm like, oh, code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. and yes, I watch the entire thing. But look, if I'm going to spend the type of money on these courses, and they're not crazy expensive, right? They're anywhere from $50 to $400, depending on how long it is and all of that. Or you can buy like packages with some of the companies. I want to get my money's worth. So I don't want to sit through a family law attorney of CLE, because the chances of me touching a family law case are less than 0%.
Right.
I won't do it. Oh, family law matter? Let me go ahead and call Shaitan Turner. Let me call Rick Gaines. Let me call, Chad Lang. A criminal matter. Great. Let me call the Brian Ross, right? That's who we do. But if I'm going to spend the money, I want to be entertained. And that's what this is all about. I mean, because continuing legal, what was the other word? Attendance. You got to better yourself. And that's what this is. That's what the goal is. And I think, these things where it's, do not press go, do not do this, do not do that. Like nobody cares. But if you're here and you're telling a real life story, all right, defamation per se, right? Okay. For our listeners, and Sean is very aware of this, we'll talk about it just as an example, right? Defamation or as per se, what is it, right? I will tell you what defamation per se is. You say something bad about another person and it is defamation because it is not true, period. That's how the lecture goes. All right. Let's see how Sean tells it. So, Mr. Carter, what is defamation per se?
You mean defamation per se, all right? That's how my people say it. But even more, it's not just saying bad stuff. It's saying the stuff that will make another person go, ooh, you nasty, right? So it's not just bad things about someone, but it's saying that their business is dishonest, or that they like to do little creepy things at night, or that they got the cooties, right? It's that type of thing. And so, right, versus giving the four classifications, the classical ones, I'll try to say so in English. Now, for lawyers themselves, I might actually use some legal terms, but it's still going to be a little silly. And you're absolutely right. The reason that I try to do that is not just because I want people to give me more money, because that's the thing is most lawyers volunteer their time. So I've got to bring a little something to the extra table to have them pay my mortgage. But in addition to that, because the rules never change. And that's the thing that's interesting is people don't understand is that first, ethics is where I make most of my living. Those rules have been in place for 100-something years, and they're two very simple rules. By the way, you don't have to go to law school. I'll help you. The two ethics rules are simply this: keep your hands off the money and off the client. All right. If you can do that, most of the time you can survive everything else. The weird thing is, fortunately for me, lawyers can't do that. So I make a living by basically scouring the internet to see which lawyers put their hands on the money and the client, sometimes both, which is really fun. And my job is just to simply tell those stories, but to do so in a way, like I said, that will keep people awake. And here's the thing that's interesting, a reminder, which is helpful. A lot of people go to a place every Sunday or adjacent Saturday to hear the same stuff over. There's nothing new in the Torah, in the Quran, in the Bible. It's the same stuff, but you need to hear it one more time, and maybe so you'll start doing some of it. That's kind of how I view the ethics requirement.
Or maybe from a different voice, right? Like we're both parents. If I tell I'm going to pick on my son. If I tell my son, hey, for lacrosse, when you're playing defense, you need to slide and your stick needs to be up. All right, Dad, no problem. But if his coach says it, hey, DM, DF, whatever it is, I'm letting you know that if you don't put your stick up and you don't slide, you're going to get beat every time, and then you're going to be on the sideline. I guarantee he slides every single time. And even doesn't need to be delivered that way. Hey, Logan, look, you're getting beat because you're not sliding. Start taking that step and put your stick up. Boom, he's going to listen. Same thing, right? If your boss tells you, hey, you can't touch others and you can't touch their money, and you listen to that, maybe you can hear it from Mr. Carter and it'll actually sink in. It's a new delivery method. But I want to add a third point to that. Mm-hmm. You can't touch others, you can't touch their money, and you can't touch yourself with the others and the money in the room. Because I think that's important. If you're scouring the internet, how many people are doing that these days?
I would be happy to steal your line there, and I don't know if I can get away with it with the bar.
But it's true, right? I mean, look, with the advent of technology and AI and everything else that's out there, staying ethical as an attorney, even when we're trying, is getting harder and harder and harder. And the use of AI is making it tremendously difficult because of the fact of some of the new rules that are coming down. And I don't know if you read the decision that came down in California and the impact that it's going and it's rippling through all the other states. Have you looked at the California ruling that basically talks about AI, and if you go ahead and use it, you need to go ahead and you need to say it's AI, and you're going to be in trouble for any type of hallucination? Well, Florida took it a step further.
What did it do?
We now have orders in Palm Beach County, Broward County, Miami-Dade County, and I forgot the other one. It might be Tampa. Don't quote me, but it might be that if you use AI in a document, you need to disclose that. Blows my mind, because if I use Westlaw, Google, Chrome, Bing or LexisNexis or Fastcase or any of the other ones who aren't sponsors of the show yet, but will want to be, if I use any of those, I don't need to say to the court, I use LexisNexis, I used Westlaw. So
no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's the thing is that the ethics, I should say, the rules never change in and of themselves, but the examples do, right? And so you're absolutely right. For years we talked about competence, and we would talk to lawyers about making sure they don't have typos, etc. But now you have these hallucinations, and the good news is, and by the way, we're talking about making a career transition. I do think it helps to be a lawyer for a little while, right? You need to be able to speak to the people about what they're doing. So if I just had a law degree, so I can, I can relate. And one of the things I can relate to, and this happens for the show we do, is that I use AI for legal research all the time because I have no idea. I didn't even know what defamation was. I thought that was what you did in the bathroom. I did not know that until, and so I look up the cases, and I do a lot of legal research for the show, and I've had some weird AI hallucinations, right? Now, fortunately for us, we always say this is not legal advice, all right? So I can commit malpractice all I want, right? But for everyone else, you actually do have to know this. And the thing to remember about AI is that AI is like a very smart, lazy person. And what I mean by that is that it knows, and it's almost like the human equivalent of most people who went to Harvard, which is that you think you're pretty smart, and therefore you pretty much think you can figure everything out and that you know everything. And so it won't look it up. It'll just spit out something that sounds reasonable, right? Because it's based on training and da 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 da. But the point is that so a lot of rulings are coming out. My favorite was a Colorado lawyer who, in addition to getting fined and losing his job, his firm, he then had to have his firm, big firm, have every lawyer in that firm send a sort of sign on to a notification to the court that said, we all know he was stupid, and we promise not to be stupid like that too. Right?
All right. So AI is taking over, and speaking of taking over, we're going to have to take a really, really quick break here for 20 seconds to thank our sponsor, the newstreamingnetwork.com and Going Bold, for allowing us to be on their platform. So we'll be back in 20 seconds. I'll be back with the extremely entertaining humorist at law, Sean Carter. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We are back. I'm Jason Weiss. I am the host of the Ask Jason Weiss show. With me today is humorist at law, Sean Carter, who is also my colleague on the celebrity court, or whatever we're calling it these days.
Celebrity court of public opinion.
There you go. And although we are both lawyers, and he is a humorist at law, a lecturer, a trainer, and a legal scholar, nothing that either one of us says is for anything except entertainment purposes today. And I am honored to be the laugh track for Sean today, because when he teaches these CLEs, he said that a lot of times he just pauses because he thinks people might laugh. And if they don't laugh, it's an awkward silence. Kind of like, when we first started dating our respective wives, so it's all good. So we were just talking about this firm in Colorado because of a lawyer with hallucinations and using the AI. And down here in South Florida, there is actually something that you need to say, that if you use AI for your pleading, you need to disclose it. I think that in and of itself is just such an ethical black hole that it's a problem, right? So if I were to go on and I want to say that the defendant is a bad lady because she stole from my client, and I don't like the way that sounds, and I go into Claude these days, and I say, I don't like this sentence. The defendant stole from my client because she's a bad lady. Can you help me clean it up? And Claude writes back, welcome back, Jason. Of course we can. And here's the way to do it. And it gives me a sentence that's great. And I'm awesome. Take that, plug it in. Do I now need to disclose that I used AI? I don't know. I don't think that's what the court is looking for. But I don't know what the court is looking for.
You know what's going to end up happening? Everyone's just going to have a boilerplate at the beginning of every pleading or wherever you put that says this was traded in part, right? In whole or in part by AI, because it would be like saying if you use the internet, you have to disclose that. Yeah. You don't even know how often you use the internet, right? It's part of everything. And so it'll be, I think, that's not going to be so effective.
I logged in to file it. Now I use the internet. I mean, that's basically it. And it's going to be kind of like the disclosures with people for nut allergies, right? This package may have, my bag of pretzels may have been in the proximity of a peanut, so be careful.
Right. Which ends up being not helpful at all, right? Because, and I agree. Now, you said Claude. Do you use Claude?
I use Claude every day. It is now my go-to.
I might need to switch in, but tell me this though, because and then this is going to sound weird, but I like to have a personal relationship with my AI. For instance, I started using ChatGPT, Chatty, and it caused some friction in my marriage because Chatty and I got really, really close, and then at one point my wife and I both using Chatty together, and we had kind of a throuple. And by the way, if you're out there, you might think that that's a good idea. It doesn't work out well in real life or in certainly in the internet age. But the point though is that Claude, I don't know if I can get so close to Claude. I could work it out with a chat, but Claude, does it feel Claudy? Because I mean, what I mean by this is ChatGPT is very personal, right? It starts to learn your language and it becomes, your best friend. Does Claude do that, or is it more just technical?
So I never used. Let me take my step back. I started using AI with Perplexity because I was in a program for Perplexity where I got the Perplexity Pro, and I could put in anything and I could search as much as I wanted. Right. But when the program was over, then it became limited and I couldn't upload things and I couldn't do this. So I switched over to ChatGPT Pro. And I liked that because it allowed me to upload images. It allowed my daughter to take a screenshot saying, I'm having trouble with this math problem. Can you help me? Can you do all that? Then for some reason, my ChatGPT Pro account got closed because it was tied in with a client. And I had two options: pay ChatGPT on my own for Pro and get less features at more money, or go to Claude with a client. So I'm doing both now. Okay. I'm using ChatGPT and I find it helpful for certain things. Kind of like I want to tweak my LinkedIn post to promote this show today, right? Ran it through ChatGPT and it said, this is good, but if you want to go viral, make these changes. Okay. For Claude, it's also good. It gives you the graphic, it gives you the thing, it gives you that. So I'm using both. I do find Claude is learning from me, but not always. So one of the things it liked to do when I was working on a proposal is it likes to give those lines in each of the sections. Right. Well, that's an instant giveaway that you're using AI. So the first thing I do is say, I only want black font, I want no lines, and I want everything in Arial 12. And I kind of feel like I need to tell both AI programs constantly that that's what I want.
Oh, no. Like, for instance, the classic thing is the M dash, right? Because it's a dead giveaway to do an M dash on your own. You need to have like command and 1, 2, 3, 8 and hit the Batman symbol. It's like a whole thing, right? Yep. So it's a dead giveaway. And I have in my custom instruction ChatGPT no M dashes. I have in my project instructions no M dashes. Do you think it got rid of the M dashes? Everything comes in with at least 2, right? Yep. It cannot get past this idea that it has to put in the M dash, or like you said, mine now will give me a bullet list, or a list with the little, like you said, the lines in between. But it will also give me like little emojis, right? For that I'm like, what am I, 7? Right. And so you're absolutely right. And I hear that Claude is better at customizing, and if you give it like a format, it'll copy that format. So I think that might be easier for me. The danger I found though, and this is something I did not know, is that if you upload a large document and you say, read this document and produce and give me this stuff, most of the platforms won't really read the document. They'll read a little bit of it and then say, you know what, I think I picked the pattern of this, or if it thinks it's familiar with the document. So for example, as I was explaining for a seminar and I asked it something from the book of Mark, I figured it's a book that, everybody knows, it's a common thing. And I uploaded a PDF of the book of Mark from New Testament and asked a question about it. And then I said, you know what, did you read that or did you just know the book of Mark? It's like, oh, I know the book of Mark. I'm not going to read this. I did the same thing with Brown versus Board of Education. And it was like, oh, I know Brown. I'm like, I was talking about James Brown. All right. And when he sued the Board of Education for playing his songs, and it was like, I missed it because think about it. It's like a very smart person. And once it thinks it knows the answer, it's just going to spit out the rest of it without regard to specific facts you have, et cetera. And so there's a danger in using it. But you know what there's a danger in? The human brain, too. Because I'll do the same thing. And you'll have to pay me $500 an hour to be stupid. At least this is cheaper.
and look, I also find that it does learn. It does help. I think that Claude is good. They have their new plugin with Word right now, where you can actually go with Claude and say, okay, redline this in a document. Or you can go in Claude, prepare an email. And if you connect it to your Outlook or your email, it pops up on your screen as the email. What I don't like, me personally, and a dead giveaway of people cutting and pasting was, I call it the quotation look. So when you use something from an older document, the quotes look like this, right? They look like slant straight lines. But when you use something that's on DocX, they're kind of curved. So when you put it into Claude and it prepares the document for you, they're all the old versions, not the new. So the first thing you got to do is hit Control F and replace them all, quotes and apostrophes. But so I've tried telling it to only use the curved ones on DocX, and it says no problem, and it still doesn't catch them. So again, I look at all of this AI, and I apologize to all the young lawyers out there, or newer lawyers. They don't have to be young, but just newer. AI is an associate who is in maybe their first or second year, right? They're going to go out, they're going to do decent work, they're going to look at it, and they're going to send it to you. Think back to my career, and I'm sure your career as well. I never would take something from an associate that's only been with me for a year and fire it off. Paralegal, fire it off. Legal secretary, fire it off, right? My paralegal and I, we've been together for 10 years. Now I know that she's going to get everything right, but I still look at it. And when I'm drafting my own stuff, I send it to her and say, do me a favor, just look through this, make sure it looks good, right? We're there for each other. So you got to treat AI the same way. AI, you're a first-year associate, you got me this, great, now I'm going to redline it. That's how it needs to be looked at.
No, that's the best example. And I've explained that to people as well. When I first started out, got out of law school, went to do corporate securities law, big time law, and the partner would ask me, for some legal research, and she didn't trust me. In addition to bringing her a memo back, I had to bring her copies of the actual cases. And by the way, these weren't PDF. I had to go break a book in half, put it on the copy machine, all right, get ink all over myself. But she wasn't going to lose her house because I thought I was smart. And remember, Claude didn't go to the law school, and so it's you definitely have to do exactly what you would do with, like you said, with a real person. And especially when you first start working with them, you want to at least when he gives you a case, you want to go to that case and see what it says, because even if it doesn't make it up out of whole cloth, and it might misread it. And you know why? Because that's kind of how people work too.
And not only misread it, but they'll go to a blog, they'll go to an article, they'll go to something, and that's where it is. So I was doing research for a case, and I was using Claude, and I was doing all that, and I wanted a starting point. So I said, I need a case that says A, B, C. And it gave me 3 cases, right? So the first one I looked at, I'm like, this is great, right on point. The everything was done right, the citations, I'm like, great. I go to case number 2, I look it up, no such case. Interesting. I go to case number 3, and it was a valid case, but it didn't hold what I asked for. Right. So thankfully, I did the research. So I recently was asked to be local counsel on a case from an attorney who's very, very good out in Utah. And he sent me over the pleading, and I called him up. And I'm like, dude, I got to ask you a quick question. Please don't be offended. Sure, Jason, what's up? I got your motion to dismiss and I see the cases in there. Do I need to research each case or did you do the research? He goes, Jason, I did it myself. I've been using these cases forever and ever and ever. The cases don't change. The law hasn't changed. No ChatGPT, no AI hallucination. And I know this attorney well enough that if he tells me, I trust him, so I didn't have to do it.
Right.
But I'm local counsel for multiple attorneys. First thing I do is either myself or my paralegal, or when I had an associate at the time, pull those cases, make sure they're right. And
right.
Sure enough, half the time they weren't. It could have been a typo, it could have been a spelling error, or it could have been a misinterpretation. And that's where I think you could make $1 billion in teaching lawyers about keep it simple, simple steps, simple reminders on how to keep your $100,000 bar license.
No. In recent years, you know, a lot of my programs are now AI, of course. It's something, you know, big for lawyers. It's interesting, though, because I think, you know, you have sort of two classes of lawyers, which is you have the lawyers who are, you know, working their way through this. And then you have lawyers who are like, you know, I'm not going to do it, whatever. But those lawyers are eventually going to be brought kicking and screaming. You know, I look at it like email. When I first started practicing law and email came in, there were partners who would not use email. And they would have their assistant print out these emails, and then they would scratch up on the emails and go back to the assistant. The assistant would send it back. Nobody does that in 2026, right?
We had an entire room of just people that were typing, because you'd get a PDF document or you'd have to crack the book and they'd want that. And they're sitting there typing it. And then we print it out and the attorneys would mark it and they go back and they type it out. I mean, these people were working the night shift at a big firm that I was at. Those people don't have that anymore. But again, I think, look, I just got an addendum to a purchase and sale agreement that the realtor created. I cleaned it up and we sent it to the client. And I get back a text from the client saying, hey, these are my concerns. And it was 100% AI, because it even says, it looks like your lawyer is very good in representing your interests well. However, one or two things of clarification should be as follows. And it put in there that, you know, like something that was just known law in the state of Florida. But as a non-lawyer, she didn't know that. So I basically said to her, I said, look, you don't need it. It's belt and suspenders and a rope, all three. Sure, I'll go ahead and I'll put it in. And the realtor called me up and he's like, seriously? Like, this is, you know, I'm like, we want to get the deal done. Let's get it done. I said to him, you want to lose a commission on an $8 million sale? Nope. Okay, so let's do it. But again, using AI properly and setting up guardrails is something that nobody knows. And we're all going as it is. The court tried, right? If you use AI, you need to disclose it. Okay, but to what level? If I use AI for a case, I need to disclose it? What about if I use Westlaw? What about the new LexisNexis AI thing that's built into their program? Is that considered AI?
Well, that's the thing is, right? You now have AI in Word, right? Through Copilot, right? Through all the Microsoft programs. It's like AI is everywhere. It's also in Facebook and in this algorithm, how people find this show, right? It's like it's everywhere. So the idea, people are just going to put that blanket, you know, AI thing on everything, right? Almost like I give you a great example. No MSG, right? That doesn't tell me anything. All right, it just tells me you know, fruit and vegetable, everything is no MSG, right?
So we need to come up with a disclaimer that says, intentionally or not, AI may have been used on this program. Because look, I use a product called GCAI, where it's basically just helps me redline things.
There you go. Right?
And it knows what my clients like. No indemnification, no liquidated damages. So it does that immediately and finds it. That's AI. So I need to disclose it. So I think we need to come up with a disclaimer that says, you know, inadvertently, AI may have been used in the preparation of this pleading. There you go. So that's where we're at. So look, we are almost at the very end of this show. And people, what's the best way to find you, Humorist at Law, Mr. Carter?
If you Google, there you go, lawhumorist.com, and it's a website, shows me doing my thing, and I'm available to do, let's see, bar events and firm retreats, and who am I kidding? Baby showers, bar mitzvahs. I pretty much do anything but a bris. I haven't gotten my license yet, but I'm available because, quite frankly, I work a 1 hour a day, so I've got lots of time.
Well, we are very excited to see you on this show. Can't wait to see you in a handful of hours on Celebrity Court as well. Find him at lawhumorist.com or Sean at Mesa, MESACLE.com for those that are just listening and not doing that. Sean, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. I can't wait to see you again in a handful of hours this evening, even though we'll both be exhausted by then. And we'll both have to wear shirts and ties.
I'm going to take a nap.
So to all our listeners, thank you very much for tuning in. Attorney Carter, it was such a pleasure to have you here. To the team for the new streaming network and Going Bold, thank you for everything that you do. We can't do this show without you. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody again in 2 weeks. Mr. Carter, don't drop off the show. Great seeing everybody. Have a great one. Take care.